honestly, I'm a fan of dedicated cans. Build the can around the gun, so to speak, and then you have a perfect system every time. I get the one all do all. It makes sense for first time buyers that just want to cover a lot of bases. But we're in the age of Form 4s taking, what, 2 days, a couple hours sometimes? Why not go ahead and get it?
Welcome back to Whiskey and Windage. It's the 2A podcast for the people, by the people. I'm your host, Mike, joined by my co-hosts, Matt and Adam. Adam, how you doing today, brother?
Dude, doing good, doing good. And a beautiful day here in Texas today. So the weather was perfect. Got outside, enjoyed it. And now I'm here doing what we do, guys, every week.
Matt, what about you, man? And once you're done, tell us who we got.
I am having a great weekend, sitting down to do my favorite show, finally getting some nicer weather here in Boise, Idaho, so we're not freezing. It was glorious, and I'm really excited about our guest today. Most of you have heard of this company, I would think, but we have Josh from AAC. Josh, welcome to Whiskey and Windage.
Appreciate y'all having us out today.
Absolutely.
Most of our guests probably are familiar with AAC, but let everybody know who you are and what it is that you do for them.
AAC is probably one of the oldest silencer manufacturers in the country. We've been going since '94, so we're running around 31 years of constant production with a few hiccups given the Remington issue, the Kevin selling to Remington, and now JJE purchasing AAC out of the bankruptcy. So my name is Josh. I'm the senior design engineer here at AAC. So I'm designing a lot of the suppressors we're doing now, and then also going to most of the shows. It's one of those things that I like going to the shows so I can explain it to people because I'm about as redneck as you can find, so I can dumb it down to that simple ideology of how this works versus getting into the deep dive and getting those glazed over eyes looked at you.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. And I'm That's kind of exciting because I've always wanted to not only just talk about, suppressors, silencers, whatever you guys want, oil filters, whatever solvent traps, whatever you guys call them.
Gun mufflers.
Yeah, but, it's also nice to have somebody on that's designing all that stuff. Matt, question, what got you into that?
So I was with AAC/Remington from 2015 to 2018. Around that time, I started seeing the writing on the wall, so I divvied out of that and went to private government contracting. And then when basically my boss at the time, he reached out to me when he was rebuilding the company out of the bankruptcy. He said, hey, you want to come back to AAC and build it from the ground floor up? And, I wasn't hesitant. I said, sure, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I jumped train from government contract to there. And then outside of that, I've just always been, tinkering with things. I grew up in a mechanic shop. So I've always been around cars my whole life. It's one of my other passions is cars and muscle cars, mainly like the Mopar. I've got a '69 Mach 1 at the house. Awesome. So I'm always tinkering on something. So it's just another avenue to express that, what's the word I'm looking for? Design type deal to make something better, refix the wheel, and so to speak.
Nice. So your job is to make guns quieter. Your hobby is to make cars
pretty much
louder.
Yeah, and then a few, tequilas and watches from here to there. So a little mix of everything.
I love that. When you say government contracting, what? There's tons of different contracting. I'm thinking military. I'm also thinking other stuff like, what is there anything you can talk about what you did?
I worked at Redstone Arsenal here in Huntsville. It's probably one of the U.S. Army's biggest R&D bases. So I handled a lot of the logistics of the munitions, like the Hellfire project, the Javelin project, longbow, things of that nature.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, because, man, so that's on the way. I forget where it's at, but every time I go to Florida, because I'm in Nashville, if I go through, were you down there, on the way through Alabama going into Florida? I don't know if it's Raytheon or who's over there. There's a bunch of government places in that one corridor. Is that kind of where you're at, basically?
It's exit 340. So put it this way. Across the street is Lockheed Martin. Next door to me is Raytheon. A block over is Northrop, and Boeing's probably a mile down the road.
That's what I'm saying. It was just a hotbed of,
oh, yeah.
fun stuff if you knew what was going on there.
a big part of the industry of that area.
Man, this is the guy I got to talk to then. He knows somebody then. I'm looking for a spent AT4
I know exactly
tube.
what you're talking about.
I'm looking for one to hang up, so I'm sure you know
I know some
somebody
people
over there
live
that
in
can
shadows.
kick one out the door. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But yeah, that's basically it. And then when I came on AAC, I started basically, the guy who hired me was our engineer at first. So he's responsible for like the Ranger project, the Halcyon, the Tyrants, getting that back on board. And then I was handling a lot of the CS stuff, the customer service, the repair side, shipping, receiving, and then also brand development and brand relaunch to help. Because this is one of those things, this was 3 years of nothing, so we lost a ton of market space. And within those 3 years, how many silencer companies popped up? You had Otter, you had JK, you had Resilient, all these companies that came out of the woodworks when they closed down Form 1, basically. And so we had to regain that market share.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so interesting that you brought up the whole KB story. We heard that story when he came on our show. Opening that up in the back of Bullseye and right outside of Atlanta, and man, he Remington did like the worst investment you could possibly do. They bought high and sold so low. That is so crazy. Like that they sold it for
for sure
pennies compared to what they paid for it. And I think it's great that they came back through, and I think it's great that the parent company came back through and picked that thing up, and they're revitalizing.
They're giving us a ton of free reign to actually design, do a little project. And it's one of those things, you're gonna fail. It's one of those, so you come up with 3-4 different models. Maybe all 4 of them fail. Maybe one of them fails. But without that knowledge, you're just putting something out into the world. Where Remington, it was like, okay, M4 2000s work, N6s work. We don't need any new cans. I think while I was there, we maybe came out with 2 cans in 4 years, 5 years, somewhere around there. So where I've already came out with three cans this year, between middle of last summer and then to where we are today.
So when you talk about cans, and this is one of those things that me and Mike always debate about a lot because we're big suppressor guys. We're trying to get Matt into the suppressor world.
Matt still doesn't own a suppressor.
We got to change.
We
got to change it. I know,
man. Come on, man. You're in Idaho. It's easy.
Come on.
He's an AK guy. What do you expect?
I'm
You
definitely
can do it all day, every day.
now
I've got the perfect
so-
can for it.
You sure can.
Yeah. Ooh, there we go. But getting back to that, because you talked about building designing cans, and that's the whole thing. Like, what makes a good suppressor, like, in your opinion? Because I can tell you, everyone has a different opinion. But for your opinion, as a designer for AAC, what makes a good suppressor?
So you can look at it a few different ways, right? You can look at, are you going for pure sound? You don't care about gas blowback. You don't care about weight. You just want that sound reduction. Or do you want no gas to the face? And you don't care about sound because you're running ears. So it's one of those things, you have to do some sort of market research to see where the market is itself before you go into that mode. And at the end of the day, is what I tell people, I'm a consumer. So I'm looking at, okay, if I'm buying a can, what am I looking for? And then, like I said, you just throw it out there, see what have you, do some beta testing with it. But like I said, when I designed the last 2 cans, they're both 5.56 cans. One's focused purely on sound. One's focused basically on gas reduction to the face. So I kind of have both those options when I'm presenting to the customer. It's probably not the right thing to do, but like I said, it works for us, and that's all that matters. I mean, customers are happy with it.
Well, you got to capitalize.
Right. And it's like I said, if you eliminate some of your customer base where they don't care about gas reduction, then you're losing market share once again, and that's what we're trying to gain back. So you just take that, that's why I do a lot of shows. I mean, I've been on the road for probably 18, 19 days now, with being home for maybe 3 of those. Because I just came back from Philly last week, Philly, Pittsburgh. I'm in Austin this week. I'm in Miami next weekend. I'm in Phoenix the weekend after that. And it's one of those things, I just work on the road, live on the road. It's right now just to get that boots on the ground approach of see what the customers are looking for versus sending out emails like, hey, take this short quiz where everybody's going to skip or, unsubscribe the email,
No, that's true. So when you're designing, you're making some that, reduce the blowback of the, the pressure, but you're also making some for for decibels. What's your thoughts on, because this is the thing Adam and I were talking about, What's your thoughts on flow through, and not from an AAC perspective, but from a Josh perspective? Are you a fan of flow through, or
So
do you
me
like the traditional?
personally, gas has never bothered me, but then again, I'm always moving. I don't really shoot indoor ranges, so gas never got to me. I've shot some flow through style cans. I still like to shoot without ears. I know it's not the best thing, but my ears already shot anyway, so let it just ride. Uh, and they're still loud. I mean, it's like if they're done wrong, it's just basically a giant blast diverter at the end of the day. But I get it from, an LE perspective, a military perspective. It makes sense. They're worried about lead toxicity levels, lead in the blood, and that's the thing that they breathe in. So eliminating that is big for that market. But me personally, I never cared for gas. Never bothered me. Sound was always important for me. I don't chase DBs, but if it's got a good tone, if my ears are comfortable and not ringing after a few shots, I'm happy.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And also, like we talk about gas in the face, I think it's debatable, but in my opinion, if you're gonna suppress,
Right.
mid
Oh, yeah,
length is
for
magic.
sure.
That gas system, carbine. I have now my BCM back there is carbine length, but I fixed the problem. I got an adjustable gas block. I tuned it. So like, there's solutions to it. And a lot of people just it's like anything else. You have to tune things sometimes. Sometimes you got to tune your gun. You got
Right.
to tune
I
to
mean,
the
it's
suppressor.
let's go back to that educational part. Inform the customer of how that works. You can get a gas can, but you can also tune the entire system around that can where you're not getting that much gas. It's just taking the time to educate them about that and how to do it correctly versus just throwing money at a gun because someone said, hey, you need this block, you need this spring. And
Yeah.
your gun's different from their gun. You don't know if they've got a 12.5 or a 10.3. You don't know what they're running as far as grain weight. So what I tell people is to get a dedicated. Honestly, I'm a fan of dedicated cans. Build the can around the gun, so to speak, and then you have a perfect system every time. I get the one all do all. It makes sense for first time buyers that just want to cover a lot of bases. But we're in the age of Form 4s taking 2 days, a couple hours sometimes. Why not go ahead and get it? I mean, you're putting money in the guns one way or another. Why not deviate that gas from the can, dedicate to the system, then you just grab and go out of the safe.
Well, it's really similar. It's really similar since you're the car guy. You're a tinkerer. It's almost the same thing as a car muffler. I hate to say this because people don't do this when you're listening to this, but you could, in theory, doesn't matter your inlet and outlet sizes, in theory, you can go to your local auto parts store and just say, give me a muffler. So long as we're not going to go new cars, we're going to go like old box Chevy or old box Ford just because there's a lot of room and the muffler's in the back. But you can pretty much say, give me any muffler you want. Mr. Guy behind the counter, I'll take one. And you can go there and weld that dude onto your pickup truck.
Right.
And it's going to work. Is it going to be optimized for that motor? Is it going to be optimized for performance for that system? No, but it's going to work. It might be a little louder than your old one. It might be a little quieter, but it's like you said, it's not tuned for that. So like you said, with dedicated cans, you go in and you get a dedicated can. This gun is your motor in your car. You got to tune the gas block. You got to tune the buffer weight. You got to do some things. But if you get everything just right, man, she chops. I mean, everybody will at the moment you get it right. Everything just fell in line and
for sure.
all is right with the world.
I mean, you get that perfect ejection pattern right at 330. You get very, limited recoil reduction into the shoulder. I mean, everything just runs like a sewing machine.
It does. It does. Right now with AAC, before we get into the ins and outs of a lot of the products, I remember when Kevin came on and he was talking, the Tyrant 9 was the quietest 9mm can he said to date that had ever been made, and the M2000 was the biggest selling can
for sure.
in the U.S. How are those two guys
So
doing
the
now?
Tyrant 9, we've updated it a little bit. We call it Tyrant 9 MHD. So what that is, it's modular can, toolless design, but we also put 5 stainless steel baffles in the rear end of that. Because we noticed when you're running full auto, PCCs, MP5s, things like that, those aluminum baffles like to fold over the K-shape. So you're more likely if a baffle strike, you're going to have the can's going to be louder. So what we did, we just added a little weight, put a little bit of stainless steel in it, and now we haven't had any issues out of them. But you're still getting that sound performance. You know, the baffles are identical to how they've always been made. They're just made out of a different material, you know. It's some people say it does deviate a little bit. I can't tell the difference, and I've got all 3 generations. To my ears, they all sound the same. As far as Import 2000 goes, it's not a cataloged item. We do get a lot of contract overruns for them. We still get SOCOM orders, so we still get LE, mill orders for that can. It's an innocent item, so it's super easy for them to go in and say, hey, I want this item. Here's my GSA card. Everybody's happy. But we do leak not really leak, I wouldn't say that, but we do give out the overruns to certain dealers and certain distributors. It's still one of the best cans, 5.56 sounding wise, that I've ever heard. And, I mean, I'm sure y'all saw Q's and Kevin's on their Southpaw testing. You know, it compared just as well as the Southpaw did. Yeah. And that's, 10, 15-year-old technology versus brand new technology. But it is, everybody wants hub system. Everybody wants lightweight. Everybody wants, removable front caps. And that's just not what the Import 2000 is or ever was. And that was my deviation when I created the new Hub 2K. So it's basically a new spin on that model. But yeah, the Import 2000 still holding strong, still selling good. Like I said, we're still getting orders from SOCOM today for it. So the clone nerds enjoy it, love it, and they still buy them for their clone builds.
Yeah, man, that's one on the list. That'll be one of the ones that come out soon that are going to be on one of mine. I do. Yeah, those things are awesome. I'm excited about it. So since you've been there, let's talk about something Josh has done. Let's not talking about that Nerd TV anymore. Josh, what has Josh, like, what is your proudest moment now that you're in at AAC and you've started rebuilding this company? Since you've started back, which project are you the most proud of that you guys have
there's
done?
Really 2 of them, really, and this goes to the whole company as a whole as being able to rebuild that company. It was a gigantic task to do. It's not one of those things that you flip a switch and it happens overnight. You have to put in 60, 70 hours more on the week. You got to work the weekends. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to rebuild customer relationship, distributors, and then your vendors, your metal suppliers, all that. So getting that to a point where we're at now is night and day. So without the whole team at AAC and everybody that works with me, I couldn't be here today and do what I want to do. Outside of that, our new Ranger 5 RBP reduced back pressure can, that's been a great can for us. It's that good blend of gas reduction and sound, because it's like I told you, I'm not a fan of flow-through, but I see that's where the market's going. Everybody wants, reduced back pressure cans, and it's like, if I don't have that, what am I doing? I'm losing market share, right? I'm losing it to hubs. I'm losing it to Soundstrico. I'm losing it to Deader. So I've got to have something. So what we were able to do is we're 3D printing them out of Haynes 282, super tough, high temp material. But we're adding different ports, nice. And at the very top of it is what we call our double helix system. So what that is the gas is vent out to the 40 and 95 degree, or 45 and 90 degree vents in the baffles into this little bypass valve on the side of the can between the baffle and the tube. And then about 1.5 inches before it gets to the end cap, it's a reverse clockwise thread that basically reverses the gas and slows it down before it pushes it out into the front through, I call them speed holes, because I grew up a Simpsons fan. So we got to have a little bit of fun there. But no, it's 1.5 OD, so it's not as big and heavy as a lot of the other manufacturers are. It's 13.2 ounces, so it's right there in that weight category, but it's not titanium. It's not going to spark under nods, because I shoot a lot of nods. I shoot hogs in nighttime a lot. So that was a big concern for me. It's like, okay, I don't want to do tie because I know what it does. Yeah. And that goes back to being a customer first and design guy second. So without that, it does help with that. And we also, instead of Cerakoting, we're using AlphaTech. So AlphaTech is a coating from UK. It's a very low IR signature. Goes back to the nod side and the consumer side. But it's just as strong high heat-wise as Cerakote. And we're able to do that without adding cost to the customer. So you're still paying, whether it's Cerakote or AlphaTech, you was paying the same price. So why not give you that added benefit of that low IR for people? Because I've seen an increase in nods and people wanting to run nods. It's not like the taboo, 5, 10 years ago, where it's like, oh, you got nods. You must be some secret squirrel guy. You got a buddy that, lives in the shadows. What are you doing that you need nods for? And now it's like, bro, you ain't got quads. What are you doing? We're being poor over there, But
I love that.
Yeah, and then I've interacted with Kevin a few times. Great dude, super smart. Always been nice to me, cordial. When I hear people think he's an ass, he's a dick. I just don't see it. I'm sure that's his persona, and sometimes maybe. But to me personally, he's been a great guy. I can't, without him creating AAC, I wouldn't have a job at AAC. So I do thank him for a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, super, super smart guy, nerd guy, and like I said, very down to earth to me. But then again, I'm kind of a dry humor asshole, so I kind of get it. So we can somewhat relate to that.
Yeah. I really enjoy his sense of humor, and I've gotten, especially from like the AK community, they're like, why would you talk to Kevin Brady? I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like, he's a great guy. And they're like, he's so mean, and he doesn't like AKs. And I'm like, you guys, I don't know, people take him too seriously, I think.
I mean, Matt, he wore your necklace. He wore your necklace, AK necklace, and did
he
a
wore
slop squat.
my AK rosary, and we did slop squats. Like, come on, he's cool.
You gotta have
he's
fun
cool
in this industry. You can't be like under Remington. It was all corporate, 100%. Where you had to watch what you say. I mean, I think 2015 or 2016, they wanted them to wear suits at SHOT Show. No one does that. You're already sweating. You don't want to be there. You're maybe hungover from the night before, and you're just in that 3-piece suit. You're like, why am I here? And that's the thing is, like, the guys I hire at AAC, I'll make sure to let them know, like, look, it's just like family here, high school, college, whatever you want to call it. We take some things seriously, but 9 times out of 10, have fun, have a good time. Don't feel like you're on pins and needles because you're not in uniform or you said something wrong on a firing line or something like that. Because it makes the day go by a lot better when you're interacting with your booth partners, as I call them. And you can joke with them. You can have a good time. This weekend, we were next to Dead Air. And, we just threw, jokes back and forth, cracked on one another, made fun of one another. And it's just all in fun and games. And at the end of the day, we're shaking hands, hugging it out, safe travels, all that good stuff. Because we all get it. We're all here. We got to embrace the suck together.
You also understand that, a lot of these people, I don't know, I think it's like, it's almost a crazy like anomaly if you start your 2A career at a company and you actually finish it there. It kind of seems like, hey, be careful what you say and who you talk shit to, because you might be working with them or for them next year. Like, you just never know in this industry.
No, especially suppressors, though. Suppressors, because no matter how good a company is, we've had a lot of suppressor companies on. No matter how good one company is or isn't, like, one company can't make all the suppressors for all the guns out there. So, like, like to sit there and like, it's one of those. It's like, there's competition, it's capitalism, but like, it's friendly competition because at the end of the day, the market. I remember we were talking to Mike Pappas at Goals, and he talked to us about that from Dead Air. Like, the market share is so huge. It's like, I don't have to dislike my competitor. I can say he's like, I might think I do a better job at it because it's my company, or I'm sure as you would. But like, at the end of the day, the market share is just so huge.
It's one of those things. It's like, I can't. One of the biggest things is I don't care for people throwing shade at other companies. Because I'll have people come in and like, well, what makes your can better than Dead Air, Surefire? Why? Like, look, it's like Chevy, Ford, Dodge. You got a preference.
Yeah, that's my question. I was asking.
It's a preference to what you like. I mean, if you like AAC, great. If you like Dead Air, cool. It doesn't hurt me because it's getting customers into suppressors. It's getting more NFA items into the world. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm happy with. Because the more suppressors into the world is better for everybody.
Better thing. Yeah.
Well, and with the technology and the engineering, I hate to say it, but let's just say hypothetically, you said Dead Air. Let's just say hypothetically, Dead Air creates a can that revolutionizes the silencer industry. All of a sudden, it's as quiet as it can be, and on top of that, it's light and it's flow through. We're just going to say it checks all the boxes. I hate to break it to anybody that thinks Dead Air is going to have it cornered. Yeah, they're going to break it out and get the major market share to start. But every suppressor company in America is going to buy one of those cans, water jet it in half just to see what they've done. They may not copy it exactly, but you're going to figure out exactly what they did to achieve that and say, oh, I never thought of that. Or, I see what they did, but I wonder if I did this in addition to that, how that would work.
Yep.
I mean, that's what this industry is. And I'm not saying it's a copycat, but at the same time, if someone changed the game that big, everybody's going to find out how they did it. Whether or not they do it as well, that's to be said. But, everything is short-lived in this industry, as far as secrecy goes when it comes to that kind of technology.
Oh, yeah.
Trickle down is real.
Competitiveness breeds innovation, right? Without that, you don't have, we can still keep traditional K cans, that we've done, M4000s, RC2s, Sandman S's, traditional. And we're all, they all fit a certain need. But, if you don't have that, that non-fear of trying something, okay, this is a little weird and tricky. Let's print it, see what happens, Don't be afraid to say, oh, this is weird, it's not going to work, I don't think it. No, you're going to, like I said earlier, you're going to fail at some point, Without those fail points, you don't learn from anything. So as the more you fail, the more you actually gain knowledge-wise of, okay, that didn't work, but if I tweak, baffle 2 to a 40-degree angle away from baffle 3, will that work better or will that hold up better? You don't know until you try. And then, like you said, everybody can get a can, water jet it, cut it in half. And that's people, I've cut a few of our RBPs in half. They're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, why not? If they want to do it, they're going to do it. So might as well just take the whole cat out of the bag. Like, here you go. And that's why we have IP and patents and trademark to protect that. And so I've never been an opponent of cutaways or things like that to show at shows, SHOT Show, NSAGW, NRA. Cool. Take a look at it. Here you go. You want a half? Here you go. Study it. Do better.
Well, that's the thing. I think you said that, and I echo that sentiment. Competition breeds innovation, and when I don't want to say you're open sourcing, but when you are actually putting stuff out there for people to see, you're breeding competition. You're making these guys either walk away from that table saying, yeah, I still think ours is better, or, man, I really like what they did there. We need to try to do something similar to that. And everyone's doing that same thing. And next thing, like the I don't know, the suppressor and silencer market I'm not going to go with Hiram Maxim, but I'm going to say from when suppressors first started becoming, they were taboo, but mainstream in the late 80s to early 90s, the technology advancement over the last, I'd
say more
40
the last 5
years?
to 10. I mean,
but I was going to say overall it was like 40 years, but then you cut that in half and just say, hey, just look what the last 20 years did. And then look at the last 10. I mean, the innovation is happening at such a rapid pace.
And the advancement of 3D printers overall are giving you that ability to where you can do those weird twisted designs, that you can never do in traditional baffling. So that's another part. I mean, how many cans have we seen in the last 2 years that have been 3D printed versus 4 or 5 years ago? It was like, oh, 3D printing is not going to work. It won't hold up, as well as, standard Inconel, standard Haynes or titanium. And here we are today, and everybody's shifted and focused from traditional to print.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, like you said, 3D printing was the next big innovation we've seen in cans. In your opinion, in the next 3 to 5 years, what's going to be the next innovation in cans? Because we can keep making them quieter. Yes, we can keep making them lighter. But my question is and maybe people are thinking about this, but this is my question. How do we make them cooler? Like temperature cooler?
Well, hold on. Before you answer that, I want to throw in with that. How do you make them cooler? Because I was going to ask the same question, but I was just going to ask, do you think it's going to be a material change, like a metal change? Or do you think it's going to be a process or machining like the 3D printer? Do you think there's going to be a new tool out that does it? Sorry to take that, Adam. I just wanted to hear.
No, I love that.
That addition. I want to hear both.
Yeah,
it's all together.
As far as metals, unless there's something that is found that I don't know about, Chinatanium or something of that nature, I don't think the metals are going to change. I think you're going to learn, people are going to go, like, we went to Haynes 282 because, we've always been Inconel 718 or 17-4 stainless, or random titanium grade 6 and aluminum, no big deal there. But the Inconel and the Haynes have been the two game changers for high heat. So we just recently, within the last year, started looking at Haynes, which is the same, it's just as strong as Inconel, and it's got roughly 20 to 30% less or more corrosion resistance than Inconel. So it's not going to wear out as quickly as a traditional M4 2000 would, so to speak. And then to Adam's point, I mean, there might be something out there that I don't know about it, but then again, I'm always looking to how do you make them where they're, shoot 30 rounds and you still grab it with your hand. I think the next big thing we're going to see, honestly, is you're going to see more dedicated style silencers. You're going to see a silencer built for MP5 dedicated, built for the AK that we're already seeing, with the Putnik, with the Wolverine. And then you're going to see, M9 can, or, you're going to see more system dedicated cans, I think, versus the one-all do-all because of A, the materials and the knowledge is there. B, the 3D printing is a game changer because now I can have prototypes done in, 24 or 30 hours versus, 4 to 6 weeks. And then C, the quick turnaround times with 4 and 4s. People's not going to be able to, or be scared to buy a niche can when they're going to get in a week, versus back in, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you're like, I've got 5.56 at 308. I don't want to wait, 12 months for each one of them. Just give me a 30 cal can. But I think that's where we're going to see the market go, is you're going to see more platform oriented silencers that, it might do okay on an AK, right? But it's optimized for an AK-74 and 5.45. So I think that's where the market's going to head from where we are now.
Do you think that trend is going? I mean, overall, it's going to be better for the performance on that specific system.
I think because when we've got a few contract or quotes you want to call that are wanting cans for, okay, I want it for a Daewoo, or I want it for a Glock 19, but I don't want to buy suppressor height sights. And that's where our Illusion 9 comes in hand, because it's built for that system where you don't have to get high-rise sights. It clears factory Glock sights. But we have been asked that, hey, do you build a can specifically for this platform, for an AK? Do you build a can specific for a Mark 18? But I think that's where we're going to go for too long. Now, but then again, it's going to help the customer at the end of the day, because they're going to get their best performance, best bang for your buck. And it goes back to my sentiment of dedicated suppressors, dedicated host, where you just grab and go out of a bag and, you're at the range versus, all right, look in your tack ball. All right, where's my 30 cal can? Or where's my 22 can? You just grab the rifle, go, and have a good time.
So what I'm hearing is I'm not getting rid of my suppressor covers anytime soon.
No.
Well,
Spice.
It's just a pass of you got to get through there to really enjoy the suppressor game. You got to have a bird mark on your hand, your shoulder. That's the one thing with doing these range days. I tell the guys.
I don't mind my shoulder. I don't mind my. It's somewhere else. Somewhere.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Oh shit, it's falling.
The forbidden
But
popsicle.
I tell the guys that are new, I'm like, look, you're gonna grab a hot can. It's just gonna happen. Don't, because you're gonna get in that mindset of, you have 5 guns on the line. You're like, code. All right, so the 5th one's got to be code. Grab it. Oh shit,
Gonna happen. I just don't want those speed holes turning into glory holes. That's all.
I'm an AK guy, so I wear a Michael Jackson glove on my support hand.
And
it's got glitter on it too, I promise.
It does, yeah. It's got, and a Gucci jacket.
He actually does.
So I think, you pretty much just touched on it, because we ran through a run there for a couple years, and they're still out there, and they're really cool suppressors. They're able to be configured. They're neat. It's a neat concept. It's not the greatest idea, not knocking anybody who's made one, but you see things where it's weldless, every baffle is threaded together. You can mix and match them, so you can have the shortest can in the world, you can have the longest can in the world, or somewhere in between, so you can maneuver at a volume level that you like. Those things are neat, but I also think that certain customers, those are great for. Other customers, you, people are that aren't gun guys. They're just going to cross thread them. They're going to do things wrong, or they're not going to be able to break them back loose. Or you're going to have somebody like Matt over at Demo Ranch who decides to screw like 40 of them together and see if he can still shoot straight, which was super cool.
Did it for the gram.
But yeah, I mean, for the gram. But you're right. I mean, everything is getting dedicated. Everything is going, and it goes back to that car thing. Like I said with the muffler, you can put any muffler on any truck and make it run, so long as it's not a new one and you're just getting check engine lights everywhere. But now they are being performance tuned to fit. This one is made to fit this style. It may not be an exact model. Some might be, but this one is made. This is where it shines. This is where that shines. And like you said, with the turnaround time on tax stamps, it's actually really convenient, and it's
flooding
the market.
It gets people who've never bought cans before, because that was always their holdup. I don't want to give the dealer $1,000 and then wait a year and then I get my product. You know, that's always been a holdup. So you'll get a whole new influx of new suppressor buyers, which is good. You know, I'm not knocking that at all. You know, send them more. You know, but then it goes back to the educating that customer. Okay, this is why this can does this better. This is why you need this one. Versus the dealer's like, 2-day turnaround time and just moving inventory out of the shop.
So yeah. Go ahead,
Mike. I'll take it. I appreciate you. I was going to say, it sounds like you had quite a bit of experience, Josh, working for 2 iterations of AAC, and you've already mentioned that new AAC is a completely different company in a good way, and it sounds like that they encourage that type of environment as a workplace and a company. But how do you guys handle customer end user feedback, I guess? Is it really influential in your design process, in your product?
I mean, that's, saying that a customer tells us that, like, hey, I would like to see this, if you don't take that feedback to, the design world, how do you know what can to make next? You can just throw, shit at the wall and see what sticks. But without that feedback, you're just throwing money at, a lost cause, because you're going to make a can that you think is right, and then it goes to market and it just falls on its face, just because you didn't listen to that feedback. And like I said, I spoke to earlier, this is why I go to these shows and put myself out there where I'm not just, I'm sure y'all know it and probably know people that some engineers like to stay behind the door, not be in the boots on the ground, and then just draw up what they hear from either the higher execs or, what their sales rep's saying. And, back to Remington, I've seen a lot of stuff at Remington go bad, so I know what not to do. So those 4 or 5 years were, great to have. So when I started building AAC back with a lot of the guys here, I'm like, look, Remington did this way, and this is why it failed. This is why we don't do it this way. Because the whole corporate environment, it doesn't work in this industry. I'm sure it works for some people. Like, say, Gemtech with Smith & Wesson, but that's the same issue that AAC had with Remington. Anytime a silencer company gets bought by a big gun, conglomerate, how many times have y'all seen them succeed? I haven't. I haven't seen new cans. I haven't seen any innovation outside of maybe, I can't think of one. I haven't seen, what's Gemtech put out that's super new and super, innovative versus the standard, okay, it's a 3D printed K-can. It's hub threads. Cool. What's the guts look like? How are we innovating that where I'm, looking at the can as a whole and it's like, all right, customer feedback says we need to do this. That's why we're making a flow can. Because I'm not a fan of them, honestly. But if I'm getting 40% of folks saying, hey, I wish you made a reduced back pressure can, I'll be stupid not to listen to that and not to design or, design a can to do that. So, yeah, customer feedback is extremely important to us. And to take that knowledge and take those questions that they're asking us that we're like, okay, we didn't think of that. This makes sense. I can see this working. Let me do a little change on that and put it out and see what happens.
That makes sense. I'm excited that you guys are doing that, and also, like you said, talking about making dedicated cans for certain weapon systems, because these guys already know, but I really want to do an MP5 build this year, and I would love to have a dedicated MP5 can. So doing someone that's designing a can for that would be phenomenal. Just because, like, right now, I've been talking to Mike, like, looking at 9mm cans. There's a ton out there. It's like, I know a ton about 30 cal cans and 5.56 cans, but 9mm is kind of this new monster to me. I'm like, man, if there was just one dedicated that was like, it's made to run the MP5, that'd be awesome.
There's a couple good ones. Well, but not to talk about somebody other than AAC, but you also have to figure out, and you're not this guy, but if you're an MP5 guy, and you want to be a clone guy, then you're going to be looking for 3-lug or tri-lug style adapters to do that. But if you are rolling out with an MP5 Navy edition that's got the threaded barrel, then the world is your oyster, and you can do whatever you want, however you want. But
me. I'm
or the correct diameter for the S.
Adam's gonna put Keymod on an MP5. I'm pretty sure
it's gonna have an EOTech on it. It's gonna
just
be
make people
modded out.
sick.
I love making people mad because I can't stand that they feel like you can't change. Like, I don't care what they do, you do you, but they get so upset about it. So I'm gonna do a lever action that's modded out. I just want to take any kind of a traditional gun and just mod it out. It just makes them mad, and I love it. And then I'm going to get the AK people. Don't worry, Matt. I'm coming after AK people, too. I don't know what yet. We're going to figure something out to make
We got you, dude. We'll figure it out.
So Josh, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, so when you started AAC with Remington, how long did you work there while it was still Remington? 4 years. So you actually worked in Georgia?
So they moved from Georgia to Huntsville, and I could be extremely wrong on this, so don't quote me, but about 2013, 2014 time frame. And then that's when Remington got into Huntsville, Alabama, and that's when I got hired on. But then again, I worked with, the old welder of AAC, 2 of the OG customer service tech guys from AAC, the design engineer at AAC, Mike Smith, that's now with Dead Air, Ben Bachmeyer, that's now with Dead Air also. They all helped train me when I was at Remington. So I've got a little bit of that old AAC knowledge and lifestyle, so to speak, from being around those guys. Because, how everybody felt about Remington from AAC was not a great thing because of that laid-back lifestyle that KB's used to going strictly corporate, and then we all know what happened there and then what happened on the backside. But that's the thing. It's like you can't take, a company that's doing good, doing great, and then flip it its whole DNA a 180. And like, all right, we're going to do it corporate. You've got a chain of command. You've got VP, engineer, all that. You've got to have sign off before you do a design change or anything like that. Yeah, and it was just a nightmare, and that's why they didn't come out with anything new. That's why you had, 10 years of nothing.
This sounds like Doge. We had to send emails and tell them what we did every week.
But
Josh, go ahead.
How bummed are you? How bummed are you that AAC got rebought, but only silencers, man? AAC was the OG honey badger.
We were, and then the old MPWs from way back when, and then you had the
handy rifles.
Put it this way, me and Cameron at PSA has been in talks about some things. Not saying there's anything coming out of it, but me, him, and a few other at the PSA level, we have been in talks about doing some AAC love on that side of the world.
You said his name, man. Like, how many times during the fall do you hear, "Let's go Birds, let's go Birds"?
Yeah, good thing for me, I'm not an NFL guy. I'm strictly college football. So me and him.
But you're in the great state of Alabama. So what is it? Is it
Auburn,
or is it?
Roll Tide.
My wife is a Roll Tider.
But
that's awesome. So, Josh, I want to change the topic a little bit now and make it not say spicier, but put you in the hot seat a little bit on this questions. So we've asked other people that in the suppressor industry this. So you talk about NFA. Obviously, when it was a 12-month wait, you guys, any suppressor company
Right.
had no problem filling demand because you had a long, then all of a sudden it went to like that 2-3 day turnaround. Now every company, it's a good problem, but you guys are probably rushing to meet that supply and demand because
They
everyone
do.
wants cans
And
now,
the
right?
other thing, I can answer this one pretty clear as day because I handle a lot of procurement as well. So I noticed that, like, yeah, it caught us, everybody with their pants down, because we build our procurement based on 10 to 12 months lead times. So it's like, okay, I don't need to stock heavy right now because I got a year basically. But it caught us all pants downs. And then lucky enough, I have built great relationships with a lot of our vendors that I can adjust quantities on the fly. So if I need to bump it up 3-4 times of what the original PO is, it's just a simple phone call, and then it's just as long as they can get material. Material has been probably the hardest thing to get, mainly titanium, and this is strictly not Titan 3D printing. This is traditional baffle, bar stock, round tubing, things like that. 3D printing is a whole nother world that's super easy because we can bump up production on 3D printers all day long because, most plates will do about 40, 48 cans of plate in 36, 37 hours. But traditional machining and stuff, you had to find out, I need this certain titanium. Okay, well, your main supplier's out and your B supplier has a 4 or 5 week lead time before it comes into the U.S. and before it gets to customs. Because a lot of the world's titanium is China, Russia, that part of the world. And then we have to adjust our pricing somewhat similar to recently coming up based on, possible tariffs that coming into. And that's another thing I pay attention to is, okay, I know that's coming. How do I adjust my price scale to not let the customer eat that? How do I need to go bump my quantities up a little more to get a volume discount and just spread it out over a year? Say 103 months, 100 and another 3 months, and then 400 on the backside. Things like that. So it does change a lot. And like I said, it was a quick learn that if you couldn't adapt to that situation quickly, you were going to get behind the 8 ball because every manufacturer was feeling that same heat. And most time, a lot of us use the same suppliers, if not their brands of sub-families of, major supplier. So we're all calling the same people with our reps like, hey, I need, 100 foot of grade 9. And they're like, yeah, we don't have that right now. Where it used to be, yeah, I got 100. Do you want to take 100 more and I'll give you a discount? Yeah, so it was a quick learn and a lot of lost sleep there for a little bit to figure out what to do.
So what's going to happen, luckily, if we get our way, and I'm not going to say the NFA goes away, but let's say suppressors tomorrow get taken off the NFA because we have this new leadership, new changes. What's going to happen when you now have a lot of other companies that manufacture that say, well, I want to go buy bar stock and drill holes through it. I'm not saying they're going to do it better than you, but is that how are you guys or how are suppressor companies going to affect? Because this, as soon as suppressors can be bought off the shelf, every mom and pop machine shop and any other major gun company is going to start manufacturing suppressors. What happens now? At that
point, and it would be a great thing. I'm hoping for it every day because, like I said, more suppressors in the market, most suppressor, more better. But it will be that learning curve of procurement for us, and then that's where maybe the mom and pop step up. But I was having a conversation with Pappas somewhat about this today. It's like, yeah, every time Dick and Harry's going to have a machine shop and make a can and sell it for $200. And we both looked at each other like, yeah, but, at the end of the day, the cream's going to rise to the top. There might be, Joe Bo's pawn shop down the road that's making an in-house can, but it doesn't sound nowhere good, blow, gas straight to the face. And, people's going to buy it for value, and then they're just going to scrap it, because they're like, I don't want this can. But see, the flip side of that is if it's their first can purchase, they're going to think, oh, shit, all suppressors sound like this. I don't never want to do this again. That's the flip side of the coin that I don't think a lot of people think about if that happens.
So that first year is going to be I think if this happens, is going to be a little awkward.
Man, if it passes, if the NFA allowed suppressors to be bought over the counter and taken home same day, I don't think there's any way to shake it out. Whether AAC is your top pick, your number 3 pick, or last on the list. Every suppressor company in America, when they become just free to buy, everybody's going to create,
Oh, yeah,
everyone's
for
going
sure.
to have a backlog problem. Everyone's going to have a supply and demand, and everybody's going to sell out. If you don't sell out on day one or week one or month one, you will sell out on
Oh, yeah,
Q1.
it's a race to
Like,
I
it's
just
just
thought
going to
about
happen.
this. I just thought about this. So, yeah. So here's what's going to happen. This is hilarious. What's going to happen is we went from 12-month wait times on suppressors to then 2-3 days till we'll do. You could buy it over the counter, but the problem's going to be
You're going to go back to 12-month wait
12-month
times.
wait periods to
Right,
get your can
you're just
again because
racing.
Oh no,
it's gonna.
because the manufacturer
We
can't
just-
keep up.
we
And
came
you know,
full circle.
a
We
lot
came
of
full circle.
people, when this happened last year, I think it was around March, April timeframes when it started clicking. It's like, okay, we thought it was an anomaly.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, so maybe a couple weeks of this, no big deal. We've seen it a hair here and there, but then it started being April, May, June, July. It was like, oh shit, this is a pattern. We need to, figure out what the hell we're doing, and that's what I think is going to happen if it goes off the registry. It's just going to be a race to distribution, race to procurement, and it's whoever can produce the most cans the fastest wins. Because I think, like Mike said, it's no matter what if AAC is my number one pick and I can't find AAC, and Dead Air is my number two, oh shit, I'm going to buy Dead Air because I can take it home today. Why am I waiting a couple months for AAC to come back in stock? And that's where the adapt on the fly comes in handy. It's like, okay, shit's going down. How do I fix it? How do I stop the bleed on this and get distribution product?
Sounds like 3D printing might be
It
a
will
big
help, yes.
solution for that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing with the NFA, just to talk to you about it, not necessarily AAC, Adam and I and Matt all discuss this all the time, and we all have our difference of opinion. I don't believe the ATF is ever going to, maybe it gets abolished, but I don't think the NFA is going away. I hate to say it. I think it could be rewritten. I think things could happen, but based off of the three big ticket items that are in the NFA, you've got suppressors, you've got machine guns, you've got short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns. If you had to figure out which one do you think would be the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit to start the chain, like to say, okay, we're getting rid, like
I
you
think
can own
honestly,
this
and
now.
this is not just me being AAC, I think it would be silencers. Because how many times we've seen the ATF go back and forth on SBRs? What is an SBR? Or do we take overall length in effect? Do we take braces? There's been just so much. I think there's more confusion on the paperwork side of how to abolish that off of the registry than it would be with silencers. And SBSs will fall in the same area as an SBR in some instances, where the silencers are just like, okay, it's a sound can. There's no real any different law really about it outside of maybe SIG a couple of years when they tried that long muzzle brake that was basically a silencer without a tube. So I think that would be the low hanging fruit is silencers. But I'm like Mike. I think there's too much money in the game for them to say, hey, we're pulling these off the registry. It might be a thing where they say, hey, you pull it off. You still pay your $200, but you take it home today. And I think a lot of people would be okay with that. Not saying that everybody would be, they're still infringing our rights, this and that. But I think if they could take it home today, they'll be happy. But I think there's so much money in that game that why would Congress and them give that up? I mean, especially with how fast it's going right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if they completely repeal the NFA, we're not going to wake up one day and it just be repealed. I think that they're going to have to keep peeling those layers of the onion back and first take away, remove the suppressors from the NFA, but you still have to do a tax stamp. And that's going to happen for a little bit. And then after a while, maybe that tax stamp just goes away now and saying, hey, because the other thing Adam and I always joke about, and Matt, I think we've talked about it, but I know Adam and I had a conversation last week about it, was if you repeal it, there would have to be like a dead period.
Yeah.
Because what about all the people that still have cans waiting to
Right.
be approved? So you would almost have to notify the public and say, hey, starting
This
June 1st, suppressors are going to be over the counter.
Oh man, can sales are going to drop for whatever time that is to that.
Well, I would, because especially if there was no tax stamp.
Oh, 100%.
If I knew I could wait 2 months, and in those 2-3 months, go make friends with the guy at the gun store to say, hey man, I don't care what you do, but please at least save me one, maybe 2
Grease
cans.
little
I'm coming day one. Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna save $400 in tax stamps if I go buy 2.
Well, it also gives time for the suppressor companies to be like, okay,
Ramp
we
up
better start
inventory.
And the other side of the coin is I've heard this argument is, what do you do with the people who's already paid tax stamps? You know, people with 30, 40 cans. I mean, that's a chunk of money. Yeah, exactly.
I want reparations.
I mean, I've heard that argument. It's like, what do we do with those folks? You know, do you send out a check? You have people verify their tax stamp, and you get it. You're never going to get money from it from the government. Right.
No, you're never getting the money back.
You know what? I think the $200 I pay for every can I own is stupid, but at the same time, that $200 you're paying to express your right, but I get to express my right. So if they made them legal tomorrow, I wouldn't ask for a single penny back on any of my previously spent tax stamps, because I got to enjoy them during that time of, during that time that they were on the NFA. So yeah, it sucks, but at the same time, it's like,
one of the good things, one of the good things that y'all can attest that the government actually did, I know that's odd to say, they never inflated the price of the tax stamp. Though it's always been
no, it's written in the law.
Right, so
I think it'd be like what, $4,500 or $5,000 if it was.
Well, but that's the other side of the coin that people don't understand. And I hate saying it because I've always said I'd never say it, but I'm saying it. You want to look at an argument from the other side of the aisle, they don't even have to fight after it. All they have to do is just say that price never got brought up to modern times. And I guarantee you that would.
Oh, yeah. Then when you go back to those, 12 months wait time, so to speak, because no one's buying as often, because no one has $5,000 just to drop on a tax stamp. We're paying for eggs, we're paying for milk and housing. So you're going to have that dwell time of nothing moving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We don't want that. But, so NFA gets repealed, cans can be sold. Like I said, I think there's a lot of companies out there that would start manufacturing, but I think you said they're right. The cream will rise to the top. The best companies will always prevail. Right now, though, in one sentence, if someone said, why should I buy AAC? I know we kind of talked about it, but give me your pitch. Why should someone buy an AAC?
Like I said, I try not to throw shade. We're constantly new designs, constant innovation, constantly thinking. I mean, put it this way, within 2 weeks, I've drawn up 3 design prints of new cans just from sitting at hotels or Airbnbs, because I'm constantly thinking of, all right, how do I make it better? I'm not being stagnant. That's one thing I guess you can say is we're not stagnant. We're constantly moving like a stream, where we're constantly changing, we're constantly looking at overviews of things and making things better. That we are either A, that we already have, or B, that we're getting feedback that we need to change. So I would say basically it's just constantly moving and changing, versus other companies that are just sitting, I make can A, it's been selling good for 20 years. We've got military contracts, we've got LE contracts. This is why you should buy it, because we support all these forces, even though the can hasn't changed in 10 years. So I would just say constantly changing and designing and developing new ideas.
Okay. So my question would be, you're already designing most of the silencer changes or new designs now, but let's just pretend boss man comes to you and says, hey, this one is all you. Unlimited checkbook, unlimited R&D, but I need you to drop a new can now, caliber specific. If you had all that on your plate and you said, okay, this is all I'm devoting, and you got to pick one caliber you wanted to, like, just you personally, not what would sell, just something that you're like, man, even if it's like, it'd probably be better if it wasn't a good seller, because you're like, man, I've always wanted to design something for this. If you could, what would that be?
I love that caliber. I would just go into the mind hive of just sitting in isolation, letting the TISM run wild to design the best blackout can there is to known. But I love that caliber.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, that caliber is so cool, but it's crazy to think that like there's there's a whole lot of science, but that thing's quiet if you just duct tape a toilet paper roll to your muzzle.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
for
that
sure.
dude's
And the
quiet.
fact that you can go supers to subs and mag changes, similar to what KB's doing with A6 right now, which is, well, he's calling Blackout's big brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved Blackout. It's one of my favorite calibers, and I still have, I don't know, 8, 9 guns that are it, just in different barrel lengths for reasons.
Well, yeah. Yeah, dude, I'm with you there.
So, Josh, I think we're getting pretty close to that time in the show. I know we gave you a little warning beforehand, so I hope you've had some time to think about it. But we want to know, end of the world, I'm sorry, rest of your life, what 5 guns are you going to take with you? It's not the end of the world. You're just trying to live out the rest of your life. What 5 guns are you taking? NFA doesn't matter.
So,
none of that
being
matters.
a Blackout nerd, Honey Badger, of course. So there's one.
All right. Good choice.
Is it going to be a Q1
It's going to be
or
the
an
OG
AAC one?
AAC KB version 1.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
240, of course, because who doesn't love a bell fed? M60, because I love Rambo. You're not a real American if you don't love the M60. I really like AK-74s. 545s are dope for me. And then...
What country of AK-74 are you taking? Probably.
I think the last one I bought was from Bulgaria, and it does okay. Like I said,
Bulgarian
It's
74
like,
is a
look,
good
I'm
gun.
not an AK nerd at all. Like, you can tell me it's like, you can
jams
say,
every
hey, this
fifth
is
round.
from
It's
the
cool.
Eastern European bloc. I'm like, that's cool, bro. Does it shoot? Okay, cool. Can I put a can on it? Cool.
Shit.
And then HKP7, just from nostalgia. The squeeze cocker.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
A little oddball, I know.
Yeah. Well, see, it's funny you say that about, what country is it from? I've thought this for a while, and I've been waiting to drop this, and I'm going to drop it now. People who buy AKs from any country of origin other than Russia are cloner wannabes the exact same way that people who buy MP5s from Century Arms and not from Germany. Take that, AK people. You're wannabes.
The fun one I like, and I get at shows is, so the M4 2000 is built around it, HK416. It was on O'Neill's rifle for, the to-go OBL. People's like, well, I've got a BRN4. That's cool. You don't have a 416 upper? Well, no, I can't find it. Oh, I can find them. It's just quit being poor. If you're gonna live,
Did you say? Wait, hold on. This just like flew over my head. Did you just say O'Neill's weapon from OBL?
It was an HK416 with a technically it was a 416 SD can, which is a variant of the M4 2000. Was a glass breaker, and that was the last thing OBL saw in his little hideaway was the flash out of an AAC.
Well, yeah, maybe. Well, I hope so.
Exactly.
I hope so for Rob's sake.
That's awesome.
Guess we'll never know.
Josh, great choices. And before we get out of here today, Josh, go ahead and tell people where they can find AAC, and then where can they find you if you're
So I don't do
butterfly
social
as
media
well?
at all. I mean, I've got an Instagram just for my personal and just to keep up with my nephews. So I don't do the whole gun and run. But yeah, AAC, www.advanced-armament.com. That'll take you to our webpage. You can look at all our new products, our catalog, accessories. If you need 51T mounts or whatever, they're on the website. Instagram is Advanced Armament Co. You have to spell it out because, Zuckerberg hates us because we do bang bang and pew pew. Yep. So you got to spell it out. You'll find us there. And then Facebook, if you're still on that platform for whatever reason, Silencer Shoot 2.0 is the call on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I still have MySpace.
Yeah,
Do you have a
are you still
MySpace
friends
page?
with what, Tim?
Tom,
Is that no?
Tell my friend.
Tom.
Tom.
Yeah, man, he was my first best
He was
friend.
yours too? That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I think he was my only
Hey,
friend.
I'll
But that's
say
cool.
this. I'll say this. MySpace was two-way friendly because I don't think they ever banned guns before. So, by
Hey, as
definition,
long as you
they were
had your
two-way
top
friendly.
8 friends and you didn't change them too much, your day in high school was fine.
Oh yeah, dude. You
Exactly.
could put your music to
Exactly.
your
You thought you was
page
a
and all
coder
that.
back
It was
in the day.
great.
He's like, look what I did to my MySpace page.
Awesome. Well, Josh, we appreciate you coming on the show. Guys, if you listen to the end, we appreciate it. Make sure that you are subscribed, you hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Leave a comment on what can you want AAC to come out with next, and we'll make sure that we hit up Josh and let him know and give him all the feedback. But guys, like I always say, stay dangerous, carry a weapon. We'll talk to you soon.